Hans Philipp was born on March 17, 1917, in Meissen, Germany, into a world that was still recovering from the aftermath of the First World War. His early years were shaped by a fascination with aviation, a passion that grew stronger as Germany began to rearm in the 1930s under the new Nazi regime. The sight of sleek aircraft cutting through the sky captured his imagination, and when the Luftwaffe was officially formed, he was determined to be part of it. By 1936, Philipp joined the Luftwaffe as a cadet, undergoing the rigorous training that would forge him into one of the most skilled fighter pilots of his generation. When war broke out in September 1939, Philipp was assigned to Jagdgeschwader 76, flying the Messerschmitt Bf 109. His first combat missions were over Poland, where the Luftwaffe's superiority quickly became apparent. The campaign provided Philipp with his first taste of aerial combat, though it was in the West, during the battles over France and the Low Countries, that he began to make a name for himself. His combination of aggression, accuracy, and tactical awareness quickly earned the respect of his comrades. By the summer of 1940, as the Luftwaffe turned its attention to Britain, Philipp had already scored several victories. During the Battle of Britain, he faced some of the toughest flying of his career. The British Spitfires and Hurricanes were formidable opponents, and the Luftwaffe's losses were mounting. Philipp distinguished himself as a pilot who not only had natural talent but also an ability to remain calm in the chaos of dogfights. He learned to anticipate the enemy's moves, using altitude, speed, and the Bf 109's superior climb rate to his advantage. His tally of victories steadily climbed, though the long missions over the English Channel, coupled with constant strain, took a toll on every pilot. Despite the challenges, Philipp survived the campaign and emerged as one of his unit's top scorers. When Germany invaded the Soviet Union in June 1941, Philipp and his unit, now part of Jagdgeschwader 54, moved east. The Eastern Front presented a new and deadly environment. The distances were vast, the airfields primitive, and the weather unpredictable. Yet it was here that Philipp truly came into his own. The early months of the campaign saw the Luftwaffe dominate the skies, and Philipp's aggressive flying style made him a feared opponent. He attacked Soviet formations relentlessly, often diving into large groups of enemy aircraft and emerging victorious. His skill in identifying weak points in enemy tactics allowed him to exploit them with devastating effect. By the end of 1941, Philipp's victory count had risen dramatically. His leadership qualities were also becoming evident, and he was promoted to command a squadron within JG 54. His men admired his calm demeanor and confidence, which helped steady nerves during intense operations. He was not an arrogant leader, but one who led by example, flying the same missions and facing the same dangers as his subordinates. In October 1941, his achievements were recognized with the award of the Knight's Cross, one of Germany's highest military honors. The following year saw his reputation grow even further. The fighting over the Leningrad sector was fierce, and the Soviets were improving their aircraft and tactics, yet Philipp continued to rack up victories, often flying multiple sorties a day. His intuition and marksmanship were exceptional. Many of his kills were achieved in short, decisive bursts of fire that left his opponents no chance to escape. He was not reckless, but he had a fearless streak that made him willing to take risks others might avoid. In March 1942, his victory total passed 100, earning him the coveted oak leaves to his Knight's Cross. As his fame spread, Philipp became something of a symbol of the Luftwaffe's fighter arm. Propaganda celebrated his achievements, though he remained focused on his duties rather than public attention. He was transferred back to Germany for a period to serve as an instructor and to rest from the relentless pace of the front. Training new pilots gave him a chance to pass on his experience, but it also frustrated him. He longed to return to combat, where he felt most alive. By early 1943, the air war was shifting. The Luftwaffe was increasingly on the defensive, facing growing Allied air power in both the East and West. Philipp returned to the front, as commander of Jagdgeschwader 54, leading his men through some of the most intense fighting of the war. His leadership was marked by an unyielding sense of responsibility. He cared deeply for the welfare of his pilots, often intervening personally to ensure they received proper rest and supplies. Yet he also demanded high standards, insisting that his men maintain discipline and precision in every mission. In 1943, Philipp was awarded the Swords to his Knight's Cross, a distinction granted to only a handful of Luftwaffe pilots. By then, his total had surpassed 200 victories, making him one of the highest-scoring aces in history. However, the strain of years of combat was beginning to show. The constant loss of friends and comrades, the unending sorties, and the realization that Germany was no longer winning the war weighed heavily on him. He continued to fly, perhaps driven by a sense of duty, or perhaps by the belief that he could still make a difference. In the summer of 1943, he was transferred to the Western Front, where he faced a new and deadly enemy, the American 8th Air Force. The massive daylight bombing raids over Germany presented an entirely different challenge from the Eastern Front. The formations of B-17 Flying Fortresses and B-24 Liberators were heavily armed and escorted by fast, modern fighters like the P-47 Thunderbolt and the P-51 Mustang. For the Luftwaffe, intercepting these bombers required immense courage. The defensive firepower of hundreds of machine guns meant that every approach was a gamble. Philipp adapted quickly, organizing his unit for concentrated attacks. He believed in striking the bomber formations head-on, where their firepower was weakest but the danger greatest. His tactics often broke up the tight formations, allowing other German fighters to attack from the sides and rear. He became a master at timing his assaults, closing the distance at high speed before firing and pulling away just in time. Despite the increasingly desperate situation, Philipp's skill and leadership inspired those under his command. By the autumn of 1943, the Allied air offensive was intensifying. German cities and industrial centers were being bombed daily, and the Luftwaffe was suffering heavy losses. Pilots were being lost faster than they could be replaced, and fuel shortages began to cripple operations. Philipp, now flying the Focke-Wulf FW-190, continued to fight with his usual determination. His total number of aerial victories had risen to 206, a testament to his skill and resilience. Yet the odds were turning against him. On October 8, 1943, Hans Philipp took off for what would be his final mission. That day, the U.S. 8th Air Force launched a large-scale bombing raid against targets in Germany. Philipp's group was scrambled to intercept the American bombers and their escort fighters. In the chaos of the aerial battle, Philipp engaged several enemy planes, reportedly shooting down one or two before being attacked by a P-47 Thunderbolt. His aircraft was seen trailing smoke before crashing near Gelnhausen. He was killed instantly, just 26 years old. The loss of Hans Philipp was a heavy blow to the Luftwaffe. His record of 206 confirmed victories placed him among the highest-ranking aces of the war, but his importance went beyond numbers. He represented a generation of pilots who fought with skill and conviction despite the growing hopelessness of their cause. Those who served with him remembered his quiet confidence, his professionalism, and his humanity. In the years that followed, Philipp's legacy remained that of a consummate pilot who embodied the strengths and contradictions of the Luftwaffe. He was courageous, disciplined, and deeply loyal to his comrades. Yet his talents were ultimately spent in a war that brought immense destruction. His story reflects not only the brilliance of Germany's fighter force in its prime, but also the tragic waste of so many gifted young men caught in the machinery of war. Thanks for watching. If you have a thought regarding Hans Philipp, drop it in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe.